Gamer wants to talk about how Xbox is ruining the video game industry, but whilst I tend to agree with him on the subject, and I have talked about the subject before, I don't think this is an Xbox only problem. Hopefully I have some points to drive that home, but by and large, I do agree with his broader points. So let's get into it.
And gals, me Mutahar. I think Microsoft is a danger to the video games industry. I'm ripping the band-aid
really
right
don't
off.
think
No,
it
this
is.
is not like clickbait or a wild opinion. Microsoft, for the last couple of years, has been directly harming the physical gaming marketplace, okay? And the reason why I'm making this
Much in the same way that Steam and Epic and Blizzard and what other ones do I have downloaded? Like, everyone has online stores, and all gaming industry prefers you to buy digital copies over physical copies, which is a problem because physical copies are better because you physically own something. The fact of the matter is, in the modern age, even in all entertainment, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, even when you buy a movie on Amazon Prime, they can take it down whenever they want and make it go away. So digital copies are what's ruining the actual ownership of games. That's the larger point that I agree with, but this is not an Xbox issue. This is a age of the internet, you're not allowed to own things issue.
This video is because Microsoft decided to kind of twist my nipple a little bit, if you will. They made a post on their actual Microsoft Store account yesterday, which they actually deleted because they got ratioed hardcore. I ended up ratioing Microsoft. I'm not saying that's the reason for them deleting it, but it's also because what they showcased was entirely, in my opinion, false advertising. Now, I'm sorry for the gorilla-style videography. This is me recording my phone screen simply because
you can hate on the fact that there's not all the games that ever existed on Game Pass all you want, but I will not give up on the point that Xbox is the Netflix of gaming. It's amazing to have a subscription where you get access to the number of games they give you access to without having to purchase each individual game. It's a service that does provide something for gamers to experience more games than they would without it.
Because this post doesn't exist anymore. But here Microsoft is touting, whoa, gaming back in the old days? Filthy. They had to whip out the physical disc binder and rip out games one by one. Look at how cool Game Pass is. You can just download and play without getting off your ass. If it takes you that long to get off
not the point,
your ass
though, right?
to switch a disc, you've got severe problems. This is how long it takes to switch a disc. Oh shit, gotta insert disc 2, grab the case. Whoa, I'm at my system. Woo, switch the disc. Whoa, I'm back. That's how long it takes, okay? Nowadays, you don't even have.
I don't know, that took a while. I don't like it. But again, like, I agree with the point. Like, physically owning stuff should be a thing that we're allowed to do, but nowadays you're always at the whim of whatever server or provider you're using, and like Steam is no different, and neither are any of the 15 game launching programs that people tend to buy games on now. The internet has made people lazy. They don't want to own physical discs because it's easier to have a digital library, but that can be taken away at any time, and that's what we should focus on. And Xbox didn't create that. Just because they're pushing Game Pass, which again is a service that allows you to experience different games without paying full price for them, it's not a bad deal. Steam is different because they help protect the customers, even though Rockstar pulled all GTAs from Steam immediately before the remastered edition launched on Steam, which means they did the exact same thing that he's talking about with Xbox here, where they can just take the game away at any time. So while Steam has been historically good for consumers, and they do protect consumers to the best of their ability, they are still at the whim of the company and developer and publishers. And these games can come and go, and they can't control that. That's just gaming in the digital age.
You have to switch like disc 1 and 2 anymore. You just got to put the disc in before you play. I get it. Convenience is important, all right? A second saved is a second you could have been gaming. But to me, I would rather spend a minute of my life if it meant owning the actual games that I buy. Now, the reason why I choose to buy discs, even for a lot of games that I could buy on PC anyways, games like Armored Core 6, Fires of Rubicon, which is an amazing game, great title, and the fact that I own the entire game physically, meaning that without any internet connection, I can put this copy of the game into my PS5, it will install off of the disc, not through the internet. No, it doesn't need to update. It installs, and I can play the game from start to the credit screen without ever updating the game, requiring the internet. That means Sony can't stop me from playing this fucking game. That means From Software, Bandai Namco can't stop me from playing the game. True. The reason I play and buy physical discs is because if I ever wanted to play an older version of the game before they patched out stupid stuff, abusive glitches, like Elden Ring, for instance, where they started nerfing summons and whatnot, I can just install the 1.0 build of Elden Ring and play the game with all of the bugs and speedrunning stuff intact. It's a common reason why I do it. And I know there's a few amount of people going, Bermuda, physical discs don't matter. You got to install the game anyways. And look, I'm not here to
there's a lot of reasons for that.
To disingenuous people. I've made this argument a million times. Disconnect.
Look, the points he made about the physical disc are factually actually true. I like the physical disc allows you to own the game. I don't do it very often anymore because I've given in to the whims, and I understand that in the digital age, this is just what I have, and it's so much easier. And PCs don't even have CD drives anymore. So there's so many reasons that we've gone to this digital age just out of ease, convenience, technology is better, and you're going to have to put it on the faster drives anyway. But end of the day, the base argument that you do not own things, you just rent them as long as they allow you to rent them, is always a big point. I don't know. We'll see. I think he talks about that in this one, Mischief, where a lot of times, not a lot, but there are games out there where the disc only has a code to do the digital download, or it only does a partial download and you still have to get the rest from the internet. And that's becoming more and more common. I think the physical collector edition of Starfield just came with a download code on a cool little credit stick. So if you bought that, you didn't get the actual disc of Starfield. But I mean, I don't know if that's the standard, but it's definitely moving more and more that way because that's just where the industry is, and it's a convenience for the consumer.
From the internet, install a physical disc and you will be able to play the game 99% of the time without the patches. Yes, the patches help, but they are not a requirement. And here's the thing. I can appeal to stupid people because they can't understand these concepts, but I've explained this a million times. So I feel like anybody that's still bringing this up to me is just being facetious. And that's not who I care to argue to, okay? If you are stupid or ignorant of the facts, it's okay to be stupid, okay? There's a lot of people who don't understand why games need to be installed to a drive, okay? As games get larger, back in the days of the PS2 era when you were playing your games and you could just put the disc in and play.
Like self-evident,
that's because games were smaller. The speeds that those discs would be read at would not pose a problem, okay? You could load games in now. If you played a game released today, games like Starfield, games like Spider-Man.
It's the reason you need an SDD to play Starfield, not an HDD. Starfield will not run if you're not on a solid state. The transfer speeds of that data are not fast enough for the size of the game. and people complain about it and they call the game buggy because it crashes because they're on an HDD and they don't understand why. I just helped out a buddy who was having small little like game legs on his stream, and he didn't know why, but his read write speed was under 1K for his main hard drive, and you're just throttling your system and it's trying to transfer too much information and it can't access those speeds. That's just a fact of games and where they are now.
Man 2 that's coming out, Cyberpunk 2077, Grand Theft Auto 5 even, without installing the data to a hard drive, which allows faster read speeds, things like SSDs, you would be waiting, instead of 5 seconds to load into a portion of Spider-Man 2, you'd be waiting 5 to 10 minutes, because these are 100 gigabyte games we're dealing with. Discs can store 100 gigabytes. It'll just take you an hour to install that entirely from the disk to the actual SSD, which allows the games to be read way faster. That's why games need to be installed, okay? It's not that the game isn't on the disk, it's just it needs to be transferred to a faster medium. Anyways,
Correct.
Why am I talking about this hardcore? Because Microsoft, when they were showing that entire footage, actually showcased older games like Jet Set Radio Future. So I want to ask Microsoft, where the fuck in the actual Game Pass, your subscription service, hell, ignore Game Pass, where in your backwards compatibility do you actually even have Jet Set Radio Future? By the way, one of the best games for the original Xbox. Oh, you can't have Jet Set Radio Future. It's far less likely because Microsoft closed their backwards compatibility program, and even if they didn't, the actual music licensing would be an issue for Microsoft to re-release going forward. Which is exactly why I always say physical copies and emulators are great, because even when greedy companies prevent you from playing the games you grew up with, emulators like Zemu on the PC allow you to play Jet Set Radio Future. This is me playing Jet Set Radio Future on a computer emulator, okay? You could even run this on the Steam Deck if you wanted. You don't need a NASA-grade supercomputer to do this. This is me playing the game that I own under an emulator. I don't need Microsoft. I don't need anybody to do this. Now, Microsoft recently is shutting down the Xbox Store, which means that hundreds...
And I'm sure there's not a single PlayStation or Nintendo game that isn't backwards compatible or you can't find anywhere anymore. Like, Nintendo doesn't allow some of their older games, right? You got to emulate it. Like, there's no way for me to get on a Switch store and buy Pokemon Red, right? Can I buy Pokemon Red on the Nintendo store? I don't think so. Even then, the GTA trilogy all got ripped off of PlayStation, Steam, Xbox, all of them. Because Rockstar demanded it, because Rockstar came out with the remasters. So even then, like, companies do this, and it's not Xbox specific, but Nintendo will DMCA you so fast it's not even funny. No, you'll easily pay money to play old games, but we still won't port them to modern systems. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. They want to move forward with their library, and like, it does cost money to keep all that stuff on server space, but whether it's right or wrong, I don't know. I don't like this situation. It just harks back to I don't like the fact that I am just renting games as long as they'll allow me to rent them. And that is not an Xbox issue. That is a gaming industry issue.
Of games are
it's
actually
fairly
at
common.
Risk, okay?
Right.
Meaning that over time, when
Half
the
the
store
planet.
drops, what'll happen is you can't access some of these games again. Hundreds, maybe thousands of games from the Xbox Arcade, Xbox 360 storefront, the Xbox Indie, games list where they were selling games for $1. Those are all gone, okay? And this is not something that should shock anybody. When you buy digitally, you are renting your games. You're not owning any of it physically, meaning you don't have the data available. It's all gone. Now, of course, Phil Spencer, who has always pretty much said, there are a list of 220 games that are not back compatible. And I have that list and I've got it stapled on my forehead. And like, how can we make sure you can play them? How many of those are on PC? That's one thing, because it doesn't necessarily mean you won't be able to play it on existing hardware you bought 15 years ago. Preservation is front and center when all these decisions are made. I'll say for us that preservation that's linked to only one piece of hardware is a challenge, because there can be hardware love as well, people who love and want this device to do this forever, but mechanical things will break over time. Yeah, that's why we have emulators, Phil. That's why we use emulation. But this is what I hate about Phil talking and like basically virtue signaling about like preservation, when even modern Xbox Series games are not preserved. This is why I say the industry is actually being harmed by Microsoft, because so far, a lot of game publishers, every gaming company like who produces consoles still has physical discs or physical cartridges in play for now. Now, PlayStation 5 has a digital version, which doesn't come.
So backwards compatibility, I mean, all 360 games should work on the Xbox, is the argument. And Xbox is having this problem. PS games that won't work on the PS5. That's PS4 to PS5. The Xbox 360 to the Xbox Series X, there's extra steps in the middle. The Xbox One and the Xbox Series S. So we're talking about 3 generations on the Xbox, but PS4 to PS5, and these will have errors on the PS5. So Xbox is destroying because of bad backwards compatibility. Xbox is destroying gaming. This is the thing. Like, I don't care. I don't want to be in a console war, and I don't like the console wars. It's stupid. However, this is not an Xbox only issue. That's my complaint that I have with this specific video. I completely agree that gamers are being screwed out of actually owning games, and they get ripped away from us at the whim of all of the companies that are involved. But
come with a disc.
Don't come at one without going at the other.
A disc reader, which
That's all I'm saying.
forces you to rely on Sony to buy games off of. It's not a PC where you can download 5 or 6 different storefronts. You are effectively tied down to whatever Sony offers you and whatever sales they provide. And if Sony delists a game before you buy it, you are shit out of luck, as you can never get that game again. Same goes for Microsoft and the Series S console. Even for something like the Nintendo Switch, which has actual cartridges. The problem with cartridges is they are notoriously expensive. And this is why I have actually not bought certain physical games, just because Nintendo Switch games are not even entirely on the cartridge as well, too.
I mean, Nintendo is so bad about having ways to play their game. Nintendo, like, if you don't go through Nintendo, you're not getting Nintendo stuff. And like, Nintendo is infinitely worse than PlayStation and Xbox combined when it comes to like exclusives and everything else. But then I guess, where's this going?
Gear Solid, the Master Collection. Okay, they have a physical copy right now you can get on October 24th. You know what's on this goddamn physical cartridge? Nothing! For instance, even if you buy the physical cartridge, they write over here, internet connection required, 24.1 gigs.
And
You've got to.
This is Nintendo and it's the cartridge, but this is becoming a bigger and bigger problem in the industry, where a lot of times you can buy a physical copy box, open it up, and it's just a cardboard disc that gives you a download code. Or you download part of the game and it tells you once you launch that you have to download the other half. That's what they're doing, even if you're getting physical copies more and more. I don't know how like prevalent it is, because I don't buy physical copies anymore because it's not worth it. But that's where the industry is going, regardless of whether they keep putting out disc or not.
Download. So literally on here, they said the cartridge has 2.4
Tech
gigs.
does move forward,
you still
and you
have
can't
to
stop
download
progress.
Metal Gear Solid 1, okay, that's 4.8 gigs now. How the fuck a 2-disc PlayStation 1 experience has now ballooned nearly 5 gigs is beyond me, okay?
Because it's got
Metal Gear
two
Solid 2
expansions.
also has to be downloaded. Metal Gear Solid 3 also has to be downloaded.
Just a thought.
And then the bonus content, a gig and 30 gigs for bonus videos. Why even release a physical cartridge? Because what'll happen is the more they release shit like this, the more the internet community will say, see, physical copies mean nothing, but you still have to download the game. This
And
is
they're not
maybe
wrong.
1% of the marketplace that is like this. Why?
I don't know.
The PS5 version, for
Is it
instance,
only
you don't got to
1%?
download.
I agree that it's not every game, and there's a lot of games you can still get the whole thing on the physical disc, but it is becoming more and more prevalent, and like it's just where it is.
Anything. It's all available on the actual Blu-ray. Same for the PS4. In fact, same for the Xbox Series X and S. So yeah, the Switch physical version might as well die out. Even when it comes to Microsoft, their physical copies like Halo Infinite, a great video by General Kid, where he showcases him actually taking the disc out. This is the Series X Xbox One disc. Because it's supposed to be smart play. Basically, you can put this disc into any Xbox One or Series X and play the game. However, the difference is, once you put the game in, you install the 14 gigs that are on the disc. So 14 gigs is very small for Halo
Just
Infinite.
another
And the
example,
reason we
like,
know
these
this is
go
even when you
against
start
his
the game
argument.
up, it will literally tell you, after pressing the A button prompt,
I wish there was a way to prevent gaming companies from getting rid of games in launchers and servers and stuff once you buy them. That would be a better solution than clinging on to the physical disc, because they're going to keep doing this, and games are going to continue to push out day one patches that force you to connect. Like,
you have to go online to complete the installation of Halo Infinite. So their flagship game is not even shipped on a disc, meaning if this game was good, if it actually was amazing, you couldn't even preserve it because you were always tied to Microsoft's DRM, Microsoft Storefront. That's it. You know, games like Spider-Man 2 that are coming out are on disc. Games like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, the second part to that remake trilogy, that's on 2 PS5 discs. So meaning that no matter what, Square will have you owning your game. You know, games like Cyberpunk 2077, even though they launched in a really shit state, are still playable from start to finish. In fact, I'm working a video on playing the original build. It's actually, you could use it as a form of torture. I'm not even kidding. But when it comes to Microsoft's flagship game, yeah, they don't even print it all on the disc either. And this isn't like, oh, this is just because Muda, it's between 2 systems. Do you really want them to put 2 builds of the game? No, ladies and gentlemen, even Starfield, yes, the recently released RPG from Bethesda, still does not ship entirely on its physical disc. You still need to fucking download this single player game from Microsoft Store. They could have put it all on 1 disc. Hell, if the game was that big, they could have spread it across 2 discs. Developers do this. Microsoft does not, because Microsoft doesn't really care about preservation. All they care about is you being forced to download from their digital storefront or subscribe to Game Pass, okay? And Game Pass is great. I think it's amazing for people who don't have $60 to burn on a video game. You buy Game Pass for a couple bucks a month and you get access to a whole bevy of amazing games. You don't own those games, but you still get access to them.
You don't.
But this is the modern future of...
You don't own the games or the movies you watch on Netflix. You don't own anything that you watch on Hulu, but people seem to love that model, right? Because it's cheaper just to jump from game to game to game using a subscription to go through them than it is to buy a game every month or 2, right? So in the long run, you are saving money through these subscription models, depending on how much you use them. But I think games are more personal. It would be great to own them. I do understand the want, desire, and drive to own them so it can never be ripped away, but that's... the entire industry is moving away from it. If you play on PC, you are used to this, and you have been for, what, 10 years? When's the last time that pre-built PCs came with CD drives 10 years ago, right? Like PC games, no one buys physical copies for PC games anymore. This is a console only like debate. And even then, like, what's the point? Because does it change anything? Like, it's where the industry's going. Everything is all digital at the end of the day. And at some point, like, a game will get patched out of viability, even if you own a physical disc, right?
Like where you'll own nothing and you will be happy. Literally, these flagship titles from Microsoft are not even shipped entirely on disc. And I thought it would change with Starfield, but it didn't, okay?
You know what another argument is? Like, okay, maybe Xbox leans into it pretty heavily, but they're owned by Microsoft. Microsoft does PC gaming as well. Microsoft is fully tapped into digital marketplaces. There's a Microsoft like app store and everything like that. So Microsoft is leaning into the digital store because they see it as the future and people don't want like physical disc anymore. That probably has a lot to do with it.
This is the future for Microsoft. They don't care about you owning your video game. Hell, that is the last thing that ever rolls through their head. What Microsoft, Xbox, Phil Spencer care about is raising Game Pass numbers. And if that means creating an ecosystem of video games where you don't even own your own product anymore, your own purchase, that's what they care about. And listen, I have no fanboyism in me, okay? I call out Sony when they do stupid shit like creating a cloud Wii U tablet. Waste of money right there, okay? Absolutely waste. A waste. They could have made an amazing Sony Vita 2, but they didn't. They didn't care. So that's gone. They could have made a portable PS4 and that would have sold like hotcakes, you know? That would have been great. Nintendo,
Okay.
you know, they've created a great, you know, handheld system that everyone loves, okay? Lasts for like 4 hours. You can play Tears of the Kingdom. Pretty fun. Microsoft, they've created arguably one of the best consoles of all time, at least from a hardware perspective. But in doing so, they have consistently contributed to killing preservation and ownership. And the fact that Microsoft took that video down yesterday because they realized just how bad.
But see, the argument he's making against the Xbox Game Pass can actually be turned the other way too. Because as a gamer paying a lower dollar amount, I can get access and try so many games that I wouldn't normally buy for a low entry fee that it's actually a boost to gaming, right? Because there are games on the Xbox Game Pass store like Breath Edge. I would have never bought Breath Edge. It didn't catch my eye enough to like pay full price for it, but it was on Game Pass. I tried it out, loved the game. Absolutely loved the game. I'm playing Starfield right now and I haven't bought the game. I didn't have to pay $70 or $100 to experience a great game because I already had a subscription. So the fact that he's saying it completely destroys gaming, I think it gives gamers a way with a low barrier of entry to experience and try new games that are outside of what they would normally do at a lower cost. So like the argument can cut both ways on that specific issue.
Their message is conveyed. Because here's the thing. It's good to see most gamers kind of agree with me on this situation, okay? Even if you're like somebody that loves the convenience of digital ownership, actually owning your games is something that we should be fighting for. Look,
correct.
There are
I
tons
think
of
there should
mediums
be
like movies, like
the bigger issue. Again, I think that the bigger, better argument here is not that we need physical disc. It's that there needs to be some sort of consumer protection that says once I purchase this game, you cannot take it out of my ability to download and reuse. There needs to be a protection in that sense where when I buy something, a digital copy, I have to be granted access to it for my lifetime, right? Or whatever the lifespan is, you know, you can't just upload and download and take away and give games off of stores and subscriptions. That would be the argument that makes sense, not that we need to be able to buy physical disc. because physical disc can die. It doesn't matter. Digital ownership just needs to be properly established.
Like music, where you can actually own your product, okay? Or at least it's not consistently tied down to having specific hardware, dealing with DRM and whatnot. When it comes to something like video gaming, I think the industry is trying to condition people to be okay with perpetually renting your games, which is not okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is a video I make like a million times, but honestly, I feel like we should just consistently be giving pushback because honestly, Microsoft was shunned a decade ago for releasing the Xbox One with an internet only like requirement. Now I feel like if Microsoft did that, every Xbox gamer or most of them would be completely okay with getting shafted. Ladies and gentlemen, honestly, it's one of the reasons why I haven't bought an Xbox game in years. And would I like to buy Xbox titles? Yeah. But do I want to see any effort put in from Phil Spencer on actually owning the box and the games that I buy? Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, this is me, Mutahar, and yeah, I'm out.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the.
No, I don't want this. Go back. I need
this game was good.
Stop it. I'm done talking to you. I think, like, you know what? He's right on the ownership front. I think he's wrong on the physical disc front because physical disc is dying out. It's not as popular. It can go away. I think there's some things you can be mad at Microsoft about, but I don't think this ruins gaming. I think having the option to have those rentals in Game Pass is amazing. But I think if I try something on Game Pass, enjoy it, and buy it, there should be some sort of digital protection for ownership. I agree with that 100%. That is factual, and that goes across all mediums of entertainment in the modern digital age. If I buy a movie on Amazon Prime, there should be a law preventing them from ever removing that from my library in their store. That's a real issue that I think all gamers should get behind. The actual physical disc, it is what it is. And I don't think Xbox is ruining gaming because they have Game Pass. Was what it was, but games nowadays are so fluid, dependent on their genre, and consistent updates are now the norm. Having a physical copy does make sense, but I think it's a point of the past. If I buy a game, sure, I would love to own it, but I think it's insincere to say it's an only Xbox issue. No, that's 100% my point. Is it is not Xbox doing this. Steam has done it. Every single game launcher on the PC has taken a game down for some reason. Steam has done it at the request of Rockstar. You have other ones. Blizzard has their own launcher, and that's the other thing. These game companies themselves, EA, Blizzard, Epic, Ubisoft, they all have their own independent launchers, which means they could pull the rug out just as fast and just as easily as Xbox could. This is not new. It's not new. It's not Xbox's problem, and it's not Xbox's fault. Do I think the protections need to exist? Absolutely. That's where we need to take the argument. It's not that they're doing bad things. It's that we need to protect the consumer. $500 is just too expensive for a full game. It's insane. Game prices can get out of hand very quickly for no fucking reason. That's another one. And like, that's where I say, like, Game Pass gives you access to games that you wouldn't put that much money into, right? Like, Game Pass is a good deal. It's not a bad thing for gamers. Not owning games sucks, but I mean, calling Game Pass as a service bad because you don't own it. That's the point of the service, is you're not paying full freight, so you don't own it and you get to like experience different games. You're attacking the point of Game Pass by saying it's not what standard commercialism is. It's the Blockbuster of video game in the digital era, right? Like, that's not a bad thing. I don't know. I think he had some good points, and there's something underneath all of it. He's just misplacing the blame for the situation.
Like and subscribe. Do this stuff. You want all that? All of that. Hey there, it's Skeg Broggy. Thanks for watching the video. And if you enjoyed it, please let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button and follow me here on Twitch for more awesome content. Link is in the description.